This episode of the Cult Popture podcast was brought to you by our Patreon. If you want to tell us which films we should watch or get 2 extra exclusive podcasts a month, then please consider becoming a patron and joining us at www.patreon.com/cultpopture.
All right, so I feel like we should mention up top that this episode will be coming out on April Fool's Day. It does feel, on one hand, it feels appropriate to be doing a series about a big fat liar when it's, that's kind of related to April Fool's Day. But it also feels appropriate to be covering a franchise that our patrons made us do against our incessant begging to not have us do it. Like, it's cool that we've been fooled. This is almost like we are the receivers of an April Fool's Day prank. So that's cool. That's a nice way to keep festive. Yeah. So if you've just joined us for the first time, this is Film Franchise Fortnights on the Cult Popture podcast, where every fortnight we cover a different film franchise. My name is AJ. I'm joined as usual by Richard.
Hello.
And today we have a very special guest. Hello, special guest.
Hello.
This is Phoebe from WatchMojo. That's right. That's what it'll say in the title of the episode. I don't know your last name. You don't have to tell us your last name if you don't want to.
My last name is WatchMojo.
Well,
middle name
good.
from.
Yeah, middle name from. There you go. So yeah, we scored. How? WatchMojo is one of the most subscribed to channels on the tube. Is that correct?
Yeah, we actually just hit 20 million subscribers last month.
Wow.
Which is pretty huge.
We just hit 1,600.
Hey, you have to start somewhere.
We started somewhere about 4 years ago, and here we are at 1,600. So it's been a slow burn. But hey, look. We like to give leg ups to the little guys, so that's why we thought we'd have you come on the show, Phoebe, so we can give WatchMojo the exposure it deserves on the Cult Popture podcast.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, Phoebe, you've come here to talk with us about what some would argue is a franchise, and that is the Big Fat Liar series, which consists, of course, of Big Fat Liar in 2002 and Bigger, Fatter Liar in 2017. This is a doozy, isn't it? This is one of those franchises where I'm willing to bet 90% of the people listening to this didn't know Bigger, Fatter Liar existed. They might not even remember Big Fat Liar existed. It hasn't really stayed in public consciousness since 2002.
Phoebe, did you know that there was a Bigger, Fatter Liar?
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I was definitely familiar with the first movie, and it hadn't left my consciousness. It's definitely a movie that I really liked when I was younger.
Nice.
I had no idea what I was in for. That there was I don't know if I would call it a sequel.
That's going to be a big conversation that we have in this episode. Yeah. I was aware this movie existed when I saw it on the shelves at a supermarket, and this is totally a supermarket DVD, isn't it?
We were together when we saw that, weren't we?
No, I think I sent you a photo of it. I think I was alone doing grocery shopping.
I'd already seen it before then.
Oh, okay, good. I'm glad. So yeah, the first film, this was directed by Sean Levy. And what do you guys think it has on Rotten Tomatoes? Rotten Tomatoes, of course, being the unit standard for how good a film is, according to this podcast. What do you guys think?
I would say probably 50%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd guess 45. Not very.
So, 42%, which, whether or not you like the movie, I think is a understandable critical response to a children's movie.
Yeah.
And does one of you just want to quickly tell me what the first film is about?
Do you want to take this one and I'll do the second film?
I'll take it. Yeah, I'll take this one. So essentially, it's about a big fat liar played by Frankie Muniz, who writes a paper in order to save himself from going to summer school.
Yeah.
And the paper gets stolen by a film producer who is really, really skeevy, and he makes a big movie out of this story and doesn't credit the characters. So he gets really frustrated because he lost his paper, and he has to get his dad to realize that he was telling the truth, that he did in fact write the paper, but that it was stolen.
Yeah. Yeah, so it stars, as you say, Frankie Muniz as Jason Shepherd, and his friend, I can't remember her name, but she's played by Amanda Bynes in a let's put Amanda Bynes in a movie move by Nickelodeon. And the movie producer, Marty Wolf, is played by Paul Giamatti, who does a great job in this film. Very like goes all in to the role of a kids movie and plays a very convincing villain. So yeah, it's a fun movie about kids exploring around Hollywood, and there's a lot of movie references, and it's just a nice story of retribution, because we've all had like an idea stolen by someone or
by a movie producer, and then it becomes a big thing. You have to go to Hollywood.
yeah.
Fight a nickel.
The second film, Bigger, Fatter, Liar, came out, as I said, in 2017. That was directed by Ron Oliver. It doesn't have a score on Rotten Tomatoes, which is always a good sign.
It doesn't even have a Wikipedia page.
No, it doesn't. You're right. And the fun thing is, we don't really need to tell you what this film is about, because we kind of already did with the plot from the last film.
That's why I got Phoebe to do the first one.
The biggest differences in this film, other than it has different characters and a lower budget, would be that instead of a movie producer, it's a video game company CEO, and he steals a video game idea. And
instead of Paul Giamatti, the best they could get.
Barry Bostwick. A name that I know because of when I saw this movie in the supermarket. His name was on the DVD, and I was like, I guess he's famous? Is that what it's trying to tell me?
Yeah, he was Brad in the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Ah, there you go.
Was he?
Yeah, that's his big claim to fame.
Oh, wow, okay.
As Rocky Horror would have appeared in plenty of WatchMojo lists, I imagine.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
Rocky Horror.
You've never seen Rocky Horror Picture Show?
I've never seen Rocky Horror. Yeah.
Oh my god, that's crazy. That's like one of my favorite movies. I go almost every Halloween to the live showing of it where they reenact the movie on stage.
Oh, that's awesome.
I was too busy. I'm too busy watching films like Bigger, Fatter, Liar and Beethoven's Treasure Tale.
The real classics.
Yeah, to see.
Do you know what's funny? I have a little notebook next to me, and one of the only things written on it is Beethoven's Treasure Tale.
Wow. Well, you know what? There's a reason for that, and we'll get back to that later.
Okay.
So both films are an allusion to the Aesop's fable, The Boy Who Cried Wolf. Oh. Jason Shepherd being analogous to the shepherd boy in the story, and Marty Wolf.
I haven't been giving Sean Levy enough credit.
No. And, of course, in the second film, the characters' names are Kevin Shepherd and Larry Wolf. So
Ron Oliver's doing his job too.
Interesting enough, though, I was looking into this, and apparently the script for the first film had actually been floating around Hollywood since the late 80s, and it was passed around different directors, and different stars were attached to it in different years. Michael Keaton and Jim Carrey were both at times in talks to play Marty Wolf.
Michael Keaton would be a great Marty Wolf.
You know what's so funny? Is that when I was watching Big Fat Liar, I was like, Paul Giamatti is totally channeling Jim Carrey in this movie.
Yeah.
That's funny you should say that, because that's bullshit and I made it up. I thought, might as well put a big fat lie in the Big Fat Liar podcast, yeah.
Oh my god, I hate you!
The script wasn't around since the late 80s. The script was thought up in like a day by Dan Schneider.
Oh my
god. This is not a late 80s script. No, I wrote that 35 minutes ago, according to Google Docs, and I was like, am I going to be able to pull off this? Am I going to be able to pull off this
You
big
pulled it
fat
off,
lie?
my friend.
Yeah, so April Fools, probably the first successful April Fool's joke I've ever done, because people are always ready for them these days,
Phoebe, have you ever pulled off any classic April Fool's jokes?
Oh, one time I put like an elastic band around the tap in my house that made it like spray out like a shower, and my dad turned on the tap and it like sprayed him right in the face. And then he turned it off. He just like looked at it confusedly and then turned it on again, and it sprayed in his face again.
You couldn't have asked for a better result.
Straight out of Bigger, Fatter, Liar.
Yeah, exactly.
We once tried to convince my friend that he died on the way to meeting us.
What?
By ignoring him and then getting a text message that he'd been in a car accident.
That sounds
That's very
horrific.
cruel.
Yeah, it didn't really work.
No.
But
I don't know if anything in the world would make me believe that situation.
if we'd been able to like find a corpse that looked exactly like it.
Yeah, true. There you go. All right, guys, so what are your general thoughts and feelings about Big Fat Liar and its sequel, Bigger Fat Liar?
In quotation marks. The first was iconic. Like, watching the first one again, I mean, I haven't seen it in like well over a decade, but I mean, I'd seen it, you know, probably half a dozen times when I was younger. And man, just like every single frame of Paul Giamatti is like, you know, you could frame it. It's perfection.
It's Paul Giamatti's breakout role. If GQ ever does a Paul Giamatti goes through his most iconic roles video, who else is doing it? Vanity Fair. They're doing the same video series. Have you guys noticed that? It's the same thing. Yeah. They just format it differently. If Paul Giamatti's ever the subject for an episode, I expect Big Fat Liar to be, because this is my introduction to Paul Giamatti.
Yeah, hard out. But yeah, like the movie like lives and dies on his performance. Even though he's like not the lead, you fully buy into this character, and all of his reactions to what's happening around him are just so believable. He's so good. And then that's what's missing in the second one, because look, I'm sorry, Barry Bostwick, you know Paul Giamatti.
No, it's arrogant. It's arrogant to make a sequel when Paul Giamatti is such a powerhouse.
Yeah. And also like Frankie Muniz and Amanda Bynes are just so likable.
Yeah. Hey, well, yeah, definitely. No, I agree. I think I saw this film, like, we rented it on VHS in 2002, and I think I saw it a couple of times. I have such fond memories associated with this film, and I think because it's like wish fulfillment for kids. Like, the idea that you could just go to LA and shack up in a props department and just hang out there and have fun and like prove a dumb adult wrong, you know, like everything about it is like they have, and like Jason Shepard has an absurd amount of success and luck for someone who's, you know, the underdog. He has a lot of things go right for him. Which, yeah, I think is why it's such an attractive movie to kids. And I think I read some of the critical reviews at the time, and a lot of them are like, yeah, it's a dumb kids movie, but it's a pretty good dumb kids movie, basically.
Yeah. Because, Phoebe, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
23.
23, right. So this was like right in your kind of like growing up sort of.
Exactly, yeah.
Nice.
There you go.
I felt like it's just like, the characterization of like Jason and Kaylee, which is the character that's played by Amanda Bynes.
Nice,
thank you. It's like I feel like it's so authentic to, like, I don't know, just the way that any kid would react in a situation like that. And I feel like the character is so diabolical that it's almost like believable. Like, he's just like so incredibly smart and funny and cute.
Yeah.
And I definitely agree that like the movie lives and dies on Paul Giamatti's performance, and that's why what I found so special about his performance in this movie is that he's kind of channeling like Jim Carrey, which I said before.
Yeah.
He's got like such like this expressive face and mannerisms in this movie that I think make it so special. But there's also like something really special about the fact that it's kind of like 2002's Ready Player One in that it just has like so many amazing like film references. It feels like such an homage to Hollywood. You have like the DeLorean in there, you have the Grinch, you have what was the other one? Jurassic Park. It's just like such a fun movie to watch, and I think there's something for people of all ages because of those little Easter eggs. And I felt like that's what I was missing in the second movie. It felt so devoid of like personality and character. It felt almost like a sanitized, non-brand version of the first movie.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Kind of like the no-name brand version of the first movie.
Yeah. So much so that while you managed to impress us by remembering Kayla's name, can you remember the name of the girl in Bigger Fat Liar? That's the real test of.
Oh my god. I know she's played by a Canadian actress, but yeah, no, I don't remember either of their names, to be honest with you, and I watched it today.
Wow, yeah. I remember the kid's name's Kevin, the boy. I don't remember the girl's name.
Yeah.
Speaking of the second one being an off-brand version of the first one, I'd also regard it as a much darker version of the first
100%.
one. It's so cruel. It's so mean-spirited in some places. So I've got a few examples of things here that that wouldn't fly in Big Fat Liar with its jovial, kid-friendly fun. One of the main things is that the characters, when they're trying to figure out how to get back at Larry Wolf, they talk about killing him. At least in a joke. The chauffeur is like, and then we kill him? And it's like, oh, no, thank you.
Donald Faison wouldn't say that in the first one.
No, Donald Faison wouldn't say that in the first one.
Never.
And they actually end up like roofing him to knock him out so that they can paint his skin white. Because one obvious thing we haven't talked about is about what made the first film so iconic is that they put blue dye in Paul Giamatti's pool so that he dyes his skin blue and his hair gets dyed orange, and it's a huge part of the story, and kind of like the icon of the movie. And they try to replicate that in the second one by having Larry Wolf have his skin dyed like pale white and his hair purple, but his hair doesn't really look purple.
Yeah. And it just looks terrifying. Like, on the back of the DVD, and also I think it's the thumbnail on Neon, which is, like, the subscription service I watched it on. It's, like, a shot of him in the car, mouth agape, and he's, like, ghostly white. And I was like, is this, like, about a dead guy?
Yeah, and we post on our Instagram, at Cult Popture on Instagram, everybody, that you're not you, Phoebe, I'm not begging you to subscribe right now. You can if you want, but
you don't have to beg me.
She's
begging us.
Yeah. We post like a photo of the movie that we're watching every fortnight, and the screenshot or the frame that I shared of this is when Larry Wolf first sees his pale white skin in the mirror, and on the mirror, written in what just looks like PVA glue, is like Big Fat Liar in big letters, and he's screaming, and it looks like a scene out of a horror movie because I'm taking a photo of a screen, like, you can't see the whites of his eyes. So it's just this black-eyed demon, like, screeching at a mirror.
Yeah, covered in viscous white fluid.
Yeah. But, no, it is, like, the fact that they dye the pool in the first film to make him blue is like fun, and it's not aggressive. It's not aggressive way, but literally knocking the guy out by putting pills in his smoothie is like, don't tell kids how to do this.
And also, like, when something bad happens to Paul Giamatti, you're like, take it, you like early to mid 30s prick. And then Barry Bostwick, you're like, oh my, he's gonna die.
Yeah.
You can't, like, it's not funny when you do it to like a 60-year-old.
I had like the exact same reaction to that.
Yeah. It's you just feel bad for him.
Yeah. I found that really scary, especially the scene where they were putting like all of his medication into his smoothie, and then he like passes out and falls off of his treadmill. Yeah. And they were all like, haha, okay, phase 2. And I was like, he's fucking dead.
Yeah. Would love to see the movie where they kill him and it changes, like, it's a left turn, like, hard break into, like, them burying the body and, like, trying to get away with it.
Like that one episode of SpongeBob that's real dark.
Yeah, true. Is that on the top 10 darkest episodes of SpongeBob WatchMojo list?
I know exactly what you're talking about right now, so yes.
Awesome. So they also eventually get Larry Wolf's confession that he stole the idea. They get it out of him by making him think he's about to get hit by a train. And never mind the fact that this is literally, he's in a car and there are LCD screens of a train next to the car, which just wouldn't work in any universe. But that, again, we're like, the way Frankie Muniz gets it out of Paul Giamatti is he just does, a bunch of non-life-threatening pranks to him until it torments him to the point where he admits it while he's being watched and recorded by everyone. But this is just, it's so dark. Another moment of darkness I wrote down is that instead of telling, this is okay. I will give it that it does sound like it's darker in the first one, but the way it's directed makes it not feel like it's darker. So in the first one, in both films, they have to distract Wolf's receptionist to get into his office. And in the first one, they see that she's obsessed with dogs, so they tell her that they call her up and tell her she's parked on a dog. But again, I know that sounds dark, but it's done in a way that's so tongue-in-cheek that it's not disturbing.
Yeah, and it's Amanda Bynes delivering it in a classic Amanda Show voice.
Yeah, exactly.
So funny.
And in the second one, they pose as a match on a dating app that the receptionist is on and tell her that they want to meet her and go on a date with her, and she gets all excited and leaves.
Yeah.
She gets catfished.
Yeah. It's
because she's seen the guy once. But
true.
The second one treats romance really strangely because it kind of teases. There's like a couple of scenes that like tease a romantic relationship between the guy and the girl, Kevin and what's her face, and it, but they don't end up together, right?
No.
Nah. And but there's one scene where like the real romantic scene where they're like staying in the hotel room together. And they're kind of being all flirty, and he does a dance, and she's like, "Oh, you're dancing like you have explosive diarrhea," and it's
my God.
I don't know if you guys know much about flirting, but like,
don't bring up diarrhea. It's rule number one.
It's like the list of words not to mention when you flirt with someone.
It's
diarrhea is the top one. Yeah.
The last note I had written down here is at the end of the film, at the end of Bigger Fatter Liar. So actually, at the end of both films, so at the end of the first one, Paul Giamatti is like publicly shamed, and so he takes on a new job as a clown because of the whole dyed blue thing, and he like gets kicked in the nuts or something at the end of the film. And it's like, this is the way to end a 2002 kids movie. At the end of the second film, we see Larry Wolf is now a mime, like he's working as a mime. But the thing is, we see Paul Giamatti's blue makeup kind of like dissipate throughout the film. Once Barry Bostwick is painted white, which we know is caused by skin bleach.
Oh my God.
And then we see him as a mime, which is, potentially weeks after the end of the movie. Is he permanently bleached? Is his skin?
I definitely think so. Yeah.
Hey, look, he shouldn't have stole that kid's idea
for that shitty little arcade game or whatever it was.
Honestly, frankly, I think he's lucky he's not dead.
Yeah. No, and like he's probably going to go blind from the proximity of his eyes to the bleach.
Yeah,
they're right on the lid.
Yeah. Yeah, they get right up there, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
So yeah, in the fictional movie in the first film, so Big Fat Liar, the movie that Marty Wolf steals from Jason Shepard. Like, I'm not completely sold on it being the blockbuster event of the year as they talk about it in the world of the film, but it's a hell of a lot more convincing than the shitty mobile game that is Big Fat Liar in the second film.
Totally. I actually was thinking that while I was watching the movie, that it just felt like so far removed from reality. Yeah. Whereas like the first one, I could kind of believe it. It's like a kid's blockbuster and whatever. Yeah. This video game, like I'm not a video game person, but I would never play that. It looked so boring, and the glitches were so cheesy. Like it was just such a weird thing.
Yeah, Kevin Shepard saves the day by inexplicably being a programming genius and fixes glitches that an entire team of mobile video game developers can't fix. This movie, the second one just straight up lies to you by inferring that the mobile game industry is as booming as this. Because it's not. And this came out in 2017. That's well into like fourth generation console life. Like no one would care about a 2D mobile game. Does anyone want to take a stab at describing the gameplay and what it looks like?
Oh my God. So it's like some big-nosed fucking boss on top of some buildings dropping shit onto like 50,000 people and you kind of just run around. It's not even clear which character you're controlling.
Nor why it's called Big Fat Liar.
Yeah, it's so
I was just going to say, like, where does the lying play into that?
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, it's
terrible.
such a strange... and like,
it's embarrassing.
Have you looked to see if they released like a tie-in app?
I highly doubt that was in the budget.
I'm going to quickly look it up.
I don't know if you guys noticed, but there was like a lot of continuity errors in this movie. at different times in the movie, they referred to the video game by different names. So sometimes it would be Big Fat Liar. Other times it would be Bigger, Fatter Liar.
Yeah, yeah.
And at one point he referred to it as like Big Ol' Liar or something.
That could just be the character, like, you know, making sure the character is like that, oblivious.
No, it was, I'm telling you, it was a continuity error.
You should do a WatchMojo video of top 10 continuity errors in film, and they're all from Bigger, Fatter Liar.
Yeah, no, there was, I don't know if you guys noticed this also, I'm like kind of a weirdo when it comes to this kind of stuff, but there's a scene where the car is getting towed after he's been tasered by the cop. And if you pause it, you can see the reflection of like everybody in the crew in the door of the car. You can see like the lights set up and the director's chair and everything. It's very embarrassing.
Yeah.
Big old liar. That's so funny.
Even that's another point for your top 10 list on Bigger Fatter Liar. Then there you go. You're already doing your research for it. I admire that. I admire your your commitment to the work.
Thank you so much.
How's
that research going, Richard? Have you found out if they made a tie-in game?
No, there doesn't appear to be a Big Fat or Bigger Fatter Liar app. There is Big Button Lot Box.
That's probably it.
Well, I just searched a Big Fat Liar. Let me search Bigger Fatter Liar.
Look up Big Ol' Liar.
There are no results for Bigger Fatter Liar. Yeah, okay. Big Ol' Liar.
O-L', just to be clear.
No results for Big Ol' Liar.
Damn.
It
does make very little sense that the game would be called Bigger Fatter Liar because, as we've said, this isn't really a sequel. Like, it doesn't acknowledge the events of the first film. And as a franchise, and Phoebe, I don't know how many episodes of our podcast you've listened to. Presumably you've listened to enough to do a top 10 on them, which I look forward to seeing in a few weeks. But like we pride ourselves on being like the encyclopedia for different types of franchises and different types of sequels and, you know, working out what the art of the franchise is. And as a franchise, this one narrowly slips through our criteria for what actually counts. Like, I'm borderline annoyed I am annoyed we had to cover it, but I borderline was like gonna put my foot down and be like, no, this just isn't a franchise. We're not going to talk about it because they are basically the same. And you could maybe say that the second film is at best like a spiritual sequel connected by a common theme.
Yeah.
We saw this with Jingle All the Way 2, which is another sequel people don't know exists, where instead of Turbo Man, it's just a teddy bear, and that's the main theme is like both films are about a father trying to get their kid a toy for Christmas, and that's why it's a sequel, which is good enough for me.
Yeah,
like,
and an actor trying to make a family-friendly movie.
True. Yeah, there you go. But even the fact that the main characters have the same surnames as they, you know, in both films pushes me more in the direction of seeing this as like a reimagining, because like, again, no one references Marty Wolf or Jason Shepard. And so it's like, it's a real bummer that it's not... Well, I guess what I'm saying is like, if the events of the first film were acknowledged in the second one, you'd also have to acknowledge the massive coincidence that these two people with the same surnames went through exactly the same basic structure of events with each other, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
not a sequel.
It doesn't go far enough in either direction. Like, it doesn't try really hard to be a sequel, and it doesn't try really hard to be a remake. It's just kind of like... it's like someone watched Big Fat Liar, then went to sleep, and then woke up the next morning and was like, I had a dream last night of this film. We should make it. And then he was like a Marty Wolf type, so everyone was just too scared to tell him. That's already
or
Big
a
Fat
Larry
Liar.
Wolf type.
Yeah, with a gigantic face.
Yeah,
Barry Bostwick's face is fucking huge.
It felt like kind of like a reimagining for a modern audience, because obviously the big change is that it's supposed to be video games, and, you know, video games are the new mass media, but it also had like this dated feel to it because the humor was so not on the nose.
Yeah.
And it felt like it was trying so hard to be contemporary, and I cannot believe that this movie was made in 2017. Like, it's actually shocking to me.
Yeah.
Because it just changed slightly the original premise and didn't really update any of the humor. Yeah. And like, did we really need a reimagining of Big Fat Liar for the modern audience?
The first one's perfect.
Like, why? Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah, no, we might cover some of that later on, but before we do, I was desperately searching for content for this episode, and so I'm going to read you guys a couple of like reviews, I guess, or things like that I found online. So this is the What Parents Need to Know section on Common Sense Media for Bigger Fatter Liar. Right, so this is like you're a concerned mother and you look up Bigger Fatter Liar to see if it's appropriate for your children. Parents need to know that Bigger Fatter Liar is a follow-up movie to the successful Big Fat Liar, a 2002 family comedy. The new movie is not a sequel, rather it's the same story as the original, set in a different cultural arena. Big Fat Liar pitted a teen against a Hollywood mogul who had stolen his idea. This film pits a teenager against a video game executive who steals his idea. There's slapstick action throughout, some falls, a wild car ride, suspense created by an oncoming train, a fight, a car hitting a teen. There are no injuries and nothing to be taken seriously except mild cursing such as smart ass and crap, and some insults and potty language such as idiots, moron, pee, and dummy.
Pee.
You guys are such pee dummies. Seriously.
Hey.
They should have mentioned diarrhea as well.
Yeah, that's true. One scene takes place in a down and dirty bar with drinking and menacing characters. The teen heroes spike the villain's smoothie with a knockout drug. Honesty and trustworthiness are the values promoted. However, most of the film shows the various characters behaving dishonestly and unethically and breaking the law. This film is not recommended.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. Before I read out this next one, Phoebe, what is WatchMojo's relationship like to BuzzFeed?
None. Non-existent.
So you're not on, like, if I was to make fun of BuzzFeed, WatchMojo wouldn't get in trouble.
You go right ahead.
Sweet as, because here's a BuzzFeed article that made me want to tear my eyes out when I read it. It's as bad as Big Fat Liar. Bigger Fatter Liar, I should say. All right, so this is an article that was posted April 25th, 2017, called "There's a New Sequel to Big Fat Liar and I'm Furious." And when I say article, I mean pictures and words connected to them. It's not really an article.
I love that.
I was minding my own damn business and scrolling through Instagram when a sponsored post came up suggesting I check out this, and it's a poster for Bigger Fatter Liar. Excuse me, and it's a gif of Emma Roberts saying, "What fresh hell is this?" At first, I started to look around for Ashton. Was I being punked? And then there's a picture of High School Musical, Sharpay and Ryan saying,
that reference is so old.
Maybe we're being filmed right now. Maybe we'll get to meet Ashton. After I searched the World Wide Web a bit, it confirmed my worst nightmare. Bigger Fatter Liar is a real movie and it's on Netflix right now. I guess it's supposed to be a sequel to 2002's Big Fat Liar. But you know what it doesn't have? It doesn't have Frankie Malcolm in the Middle Muniz. Amanda Bynes? Nope, she's not in it. Neither is this beautiful furry cardigan or these literal rose-coloured glasses. That's a good line because Amanda Bynes does wear those two things in Big Fat Liar. And shocker, this old-fashioned messaging device is missing in action. Why would they have 2002 cell phones in 2007? That's the best thing about anyway. Paul Giamatti, this is the best part. Paul Giamatti, more like Paul Gianotti. Feel like that relies on your accents pronouncing the Mart and Giamatti like the not.
Can you say it, Phoebe, so that everyone will be able to get it?
Giamatti? more like Giannotti.
Giannotti. Oh. That's great. In fact, nobody in this alleged sequel even gets dyed blue at all. So this prime joke from the original trailer, gone. And then it shows the clip where he's like, they told me to pick up a little blue car. They didn't say anything about a little blue man. Instead, this guy is turned into a mime. Like, what? He's not even blue. And if you're expecting to see a young Taron Killam, you're in for even more disappointment since he's grown now and has a family with Robin Scherbatsky. Why are you telling me about Taron Killam's life? I'm not interested in this part.
Robin Scherbatsky's Kobe Smulders character from How I Met Mother. They're married.
Worst of all, I've seen zero evidence that this liar is even bigger or fatter in any way, and that, my friends, is the biggest fat lie of all. Look, then it says Muniz out. Barry Bostwick's probably fatter than
his face is definitely bigger.
Hey, that's not nice.
I know, it's not nice, but technically he is a bigger, fatter liar. Even if he was real skinny and Paul Giamatti was even skinnier, he's still a bigger, fatter liar. So while I don't agree with the movie, I disagree more with the BuzzFeed article. That's my point.
Oh, so Ashton Kutcher hasn't hosted Punk'd since 2007.
That joke is so 2007.
Oh.
Which would have been the perfect time for Bigger Fat Liar to come out. All right, so we usually, Phoebe, we usually talk about titles on this podcast. Like, we'll discuss the titling scheme of a certain franchise or the, what we think, if we think they were good or bad. I don't think we need to do that for this episode. I have nothing to say about the titles. It's Big Fat Liar and Bigger Fatter Liar. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
But another thing we usually talk about is dumb IMDb trivia. So IMDb trivia is user generated, so anyone can just go on and be like, this movie reminded me of this movie, and that's a piece of trivia apparently.
Yeah.
But there wasn't any IMDb trivia for Bigger Fatter Liar, but there were some dumb IMDb goofs that I'm going to bring up. And there's one that was actually written in the goof section and one that I just noticed. So the first one, the one that was actually written in the goof section is, this page says Alan Wolfe, but the character's name is actually Larry Wolfe. This is the first time I've seen a goof on IMDb refer to IMDb itself and not the movie.
I just clicked.
Yeah. And in a similar train of thought, IMDb lists the movie as Big Fat Liar too. So we've got even another incorrect title being thrown around when discussing this movie. So there you go.
Very interesting.
Wow. That sure was dumb.
Yeah, that sure was dumb, Richard. And you know what else is dumb?
Your face.
Yep.
Ooh.
Got him.
Useless statistics. This is another segment that we have, Phoebe, that I don't know, maybe we should stop doing it, but here it is anyway. So this is a segment where we look at all the different franchises we've covered and try to figure out some fun but useless statistics where this film fits into. All right, so here I've got a few here, and we can talk about them and discuss them. I don't know how accessible this is to either first-time listeners, so fans of WatchMojo, but I don't know. I'm getting real dark on this segment, but I love doing it so much, so I want to keep doing it. But
Okay.
So this is our 21st two-film franchise that we've covered.
Jesus.
So we've covered 21 other two-film franchises. I think that's our most amount. That's our highest amount of numbers of films and franchises. And does two films count as a franchise? Great question. We're not really represented. This is like the Bigger Fatter Liar is a sequel statement of film franchise Fortnights. I think this is our second pre-fame John Cho franchise after American Pie. So John Cho stars as the director of Big Fat Liar in Big Fat Liar.
Oh yeah, who's totally playing John Woo.
All right.
Who did Mission Impossible 2. Asian American director who's we should start out, doves fly past the camera, which is a classic John Woo move. And he talks about explosions and the way it's shot. Yeah.
Nice. And it's really interesting seeing John Cho play or be a desperate actor playing a character, because there's something desperate about his role in this film that that you wouldn't get him doing now that he's been in Star Trek and Harold and Kumar 3.
A very Harold and Kumar Christmas.
Sorry, you're right. This is our second franchise in which the first film has an energetic opening sequence set to a Smash Mouth song. So we covered Shrek, which, of course starts with All Star. And this song, Big Fat Liar, starts with, come on, come on, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, come on, come on, which is the best way to be I'm in 2002 watching a movie. It starts with Come On, Come On by Smash Mouth. This is our second franchise in which a character makes a very rudimentary, outdated 2D platformer, which looks crap in real life but is groundbreaking in the world of the film, because the live-action 101 Dalmatians film had the same kind of thing happen. But to 101 Dalmatians' credit, it was made in 1996, where this was a bit more excusable than something in 2017 looking like an off-brand app that I wouldn't download.
Yeah.
Expanding on that, we've also covered franchises with films like Jingle All the Way 2, where everyone is obsessed with something that isn't that impressive. So in Jingle All the Way 2, it's a run-of-the-mill teddy bear. I'm sure there are more examples of us doing a franchise where the MacGuffin in the film isn't as impressive as the film wants us to think it is, but I can't remember any off the top of my head. And I looked through and couldn't figure it out anymore. This is our second franchise to feature the DeLorean from Back to the Future after Back to the Future. It, of course, appears in the prop shed. This is our second podcast in which we've either interviewed a person or talked about a movie which features a character who is claimed to have written a Nutty Professor movie.
That's true.
So we interviewed Chris Weitz, who co-wrote The Nutty Professor 2. And in the Big Fat Liar, when Jason Shepard gets kicked out of Marty Wolf's office, he's like, "No, I wrote Big Fat Liar." And one of the security guards is like, "Yeah, and I wrote Nutty Professor."
That's amazing.
This is our second franchise to have one of the creative forces involved have a widely publicized foot fetish. Tarantino, of course, has a foot fetish, and he did Kill Bill, which we've covered. And Dan Schneider wrote Big Fat Liar. And if you look up Dan Schneider these days, there's a bunch of pictures of him being creepy with the member of iCarly's feet.
Oh, what the fuck?
Yeah, Dan Schneider.
I wish that you wouldn't have told me that.
Yeah, no, it's not looking good for Dan Schneider's career these days. Old Schneider's Bakery is getting closed down. And this is our second franchise to feature a film directed by Ron Oliver, who directed Bigger, Fatter, Liar. The other being Beethoven's Treasure Tale, which IMDb refers to as Beethoven's Treasure.
Cool.
I also don't know if it's the first or what, but the first film was released on my birthday.
Aww.
Yeah,
Very
and Airbud 2 was directed by someone with the same name as me, so I don't know. We probably could do something with it.
Yeah. I mean, Airbud 2 wasn't mentioned in any of these stats.
Yeah. I don't know, I just wanted
You're
to...
saying this is the second film that has a personal connection to you in some way.
Yeah.
I feel like there's been plenty of those, though.
Yeah, I know.
So speaking of Ron Oliver, who directed this and Beethoven's Treasure Tale,
yes, I forgot.
I reached out to him. So let me say up top, if you're listening to this, Ron Oliver, I'm sorry for spending an hour shitting on your film. The direction wasn't bad. That's not what's wrong with it. So I messaged out to him and I said, "Hey there, Ron. My name is AJ. I'm a podcaster from New Zealand who is about to record an episode on the two Big Fat Liar films."
With Phoebe from WatchMojo.
Yeah, we hadn't got her by that point. So
all right. We had managed to secure that.
Yeah. I'm really curious to know, and I'd love if you could tell me, how did the concept for Bigger, Fatter, Liar come about? What inspired you and your team to revive such an old and relatively obscure movie? Would love to hear back from you. Thanks, AJ. And he replied, and he said, "Hi, AJ. The project came about because of Universal's interest in revisiting their back catalogue and doing remakes or sequels to movies which had been hits for them back when the current movie audience had been kids, which is actually a technique we've learned before when we interviewed David Mickey Evans, who directed Beethoven's Third and Fourth. He kind of told us something very similar, that the reason movies like, he also directed Ace Ventura, Junior Pet Detective, and the reason that movie existed so long after the last Ace Ventura movie is because the DVD boom happened and studios wanted to make quick cheap movies with brands that people could trust. So a similar situation here. All right, he goes on to say, this gets really exciting, by the way. You guys are going to love this.
Oh my gosh.
I've made a few films for Universal, and they came to me with a version of the script, which, while not quite there, had a fun central idea. I took it and rewrote it, and then we filmed it a couple summers ago. We are still looking at other titles in the catalogue, and in fact, Big Fat Liar 2, which is what he calls it, was such... Ready? You ready for this bomb, this Cult Popture exclusive?
Yeah.
Big Fat Liar 2 was such a big hit for the studio that I'm currently writing number 3.
No.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
I'm so excited.
It's amazing.
You heard it here first on Cult Popture. Bigger Fatter Liar 3 is coming out.
Wait, is this an April Fool's joke?
Well, he might... No, this part isn't, I swear. This part's genuine.
Okay.
I can show you my chat log. It'd be a good April Fool's joke, though, wouldn't I? Have you guys, like, hook, line,
well,
and
now I can't trust you because you got me the first time.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man.
He says, thank you for your interest. Also, check out Granddaddy Daycare from Universal, which is a not really sequel to Daddy Daycare released earlier this year. Take care. Yeah, Granddaddy Daycare, which is actually the third Daddy Daycare movie, because there was Daddy Daycare, Daddy Day Camp, and now Granddaddy Daycare.
Wow.
So,
I just can't get over that. We got an exclusive.
yeah, and no one would give a shit about that. I replied.
You should write to that
like,
BuzzFeed writer.
Yeah. Or we could do top 10 Cult Popture exclusives on WatchMojo, and it's like this is the only one.
Well, and the time we found out about Rogue One.
Oh yeah, we got the exclusive on Rogue One deleted scenes, so that's
wow,
cool.
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's as awesome as Bigger Fatter Liar 3, but you'll get there.
Not.
Yeah, it's definitely an honorable mention.
So I replied to him. I replied to that message and I said, "Whoa, biggest fattest liar," and he didn't reply.
He was like, block.
Yeah. So it reminded me of that scene in Dumb and Dumber where Jim Carrey walks past those two thugs and he's like, "Big gulps, huh? Well, see you later." It was like that. It was like, biggest fattest liar. Well, thanks for your time. All right, so speaking of biggest fattest liar or Big Fat Liar 3, now it's time to continue the franchise where we all pitch a sequel or a continuation of the franchise in some way. Who wants to go first?
I can.
Sweet.
So my one, surprise, surprise, is called Biggest Fattest Liar. And it's a sequel. It's it's another retelling of the same shit, but this time instead of a movie or a video game, it's a hot new podcast that everyone wants in on. And it is
the new form of mass media.
Yeah, Devon Shepherd has an idea for the best ever podcast, and he runs into a big podcast producer called
Richard Martin Alexander Jones.
Richard and Alexander Wolf, the brothers.
The brothers.
And their assistant and their receptionist Phoebe.
Hey,
no, let's be honest, our like CEO and funder.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Phoebe
seriously. How dare you?
But they steal the idea, and they get dyed a color. They
Which
almost
color?
get murdered several times. Pink.
Black, and it's very controversial.
Oh my god, that's dark. That's really
They
dark.
shouldn't have done it. They shouldn't have made the movie.
At least they'll get people talking about it.
Yeah, exactly.
But actually, the exec, because I was like, okay, so if you continue the graph of like Paul Giamatti to Barry Bostwick, and then what's the like follows down from that, I'd have Wesley Mann play him, who's the guy in Back to the Future 2, who's like, I think he took that guy's wallet. And that's his claim to fame. So he plays the record executive, continuing the theme of like having people that are probably too old to have all this shit done to them.
Oh my god.
And maybe he does die, and then it just is a really dark movie.
Wow.
Biggest,
Very,
darkest
very
liar.
And the
And with the blackface.
Yeah. Cool. That's great. Thank you, Richard. Phoebe, would you like to share with us your idea?
Yeah, I think that dark dying was the perfect segue to mine.
Oh,
Awesome.
nice.
Mine is called Big Fat Murderer. So essentially, it starts out the same way with a kid being ripped off by a big wig and a suit, but he goes too far with his pranks and kills the guy, and then he has to pretend to be him so that he doesn't get caught and tried for murder.
Big fat manslaughter.
Yeah, yeah, it's a working title. Yeah. But yeah, I felt like the jump from the first movie being like this whimsical children's prank movie to the second one being like pretty dark and dangerous. Yeah. The natural next step would just be to like full blown kill somebody.
Hard out. Agreed.
Yeah.
Like someone steals his idea for the perfect murder.
Yeah.
And so he kills him.
Whoa. Okay. Now we're cooking with gas. All right. My idea is to sue Universal and tell them that they stole my idea and recreate the events of Big Fat Liar in real life. If you're listening to this and this is literally proof of me saying that I'm lying about it, please don't tell anyone. I'm gonna sue you. I'm gonna message Ron Oliver back. I'm like, listen here, man. You stole my idea for biggest. Sure, I'll go for the second one. Fat Liar was my idea. Yeah, and just recreate the events.
I think,
except I'm wrong in this case.
I may need to listen back, but from memory, this is the first time that a Continue the Franchise has been a lawsuit.
Yeah, we've had. I remember your Continue the Franchise for The Land Before Time was a
press release saying that they won't make any more.
Yeah, that they're not going to make any more.
Oh my god!
Has WatchMojo ever done a video on Land Before Time?
We have a big catalog. I don't really know or remember, but probably at some point. I love that movie.
Yeah, how long have you been there?
Just a little over 2 years.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
And you're finally getting to show your face.
Well, I don't know why everybody keeps saying that. I've been showing my face since I started there.
Really?
It's been a while now. Oh. Yeah, like we do the podcast. Well, we did the podcast, and we did a lot of different on-camera stuff. I guess people just only watch the top 10s.
Yeah. That's interesting, because a while ago I was like, what do the people from WatchMojo look like? And I couldn't find it. And then on the top 10s, I was like, oh shit. Let's see if I can find her on Twitter.
Yeah, I remember one time we posted a photo of us at like our Halloween party, and someone commented that we had radio faces. So if that's any indication of what we look like.
if your Skype thumbnail is anything to go by, I vehemently disagree that you have a radio face, Phoebe.
Nice, AJ.
Well, if I put on my camera, you would truly agree.
But we don't need to do that.
Yeah, no one wants to see that.
Do you think people are ever like, what do the guys from Cult Popture look like?
Yeah,
I wondered.
Yeah,
and then you see that one photo where it's like our faces mixed together, and you're like, oh,
yeah.
Are you guys brothers?
No.
No.
Really?
I love that you asked that, but no, we're not. A lot of people have. Someone came up to us one time and was like, are you guys brothers? And we were like, no. He's like, have you ever looked in a mirror together? Which is a weird thing to do.
This is just what dudes who like movies look like.
Yeah, I guess so.
This is what you look like when you care more about movies than how you look.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got one last segment for the show, and that segment is called #AskEveryone2019. So Phoebe, some of our biggest boosts, the way we got to 1,600 subscribers,
here's a little tip.
Thank you.
Is we've done a few, as we said before, exclusive interviews with certain members of Hollywood. Over the years, and that's ranged from directors of obscure movies. We once interviewed the kid that Anakin Skywalker murders in Revenge of the Sith. You know, the kid who's like, what are we going to... There's too many of them. Master Skywalker, what are we going to do? Interviewed him. He's all grown up now. And so usually what we do is we try find like someone who's involved with one of the film of the week that we're watching, and if bonus points if they've been involved in other films we've covered, and you've got to find that sweet spot between too famous that they won't want to talk to us and successful enough that it's still significant that we're talking to them.
And so you fell into that into that sweet spot, Phoebe.
Yeah, so this is us interviewing.
Are you calling me famous?
Well, no, we're calling you not that famous.
Because I was going to say, if you are, then you're wrong.
But that being said, I am going to throw that all out the window in this case, because even though it might seem like Ron Oliver is the perfect person to talk to, since I've already made contact and he has directed another film, I feel like he's going to listen to this and not be very happy. So I don't want to poke the bear any further. So I'm like, look, he's not in the public eye anymore. He's retired. So let's just tweet Frankie Muniz and see if he wants to come on.
So,
all right,
totally.
So here's the tweet. Hey, Frankie Muniz, we run a podcast about movies, and we'd love to interview you about Big Fat Liar. I've written Biff Gat Liar. Big Fat Liar. And your thoughts on its 2017 sequel, Bigger, Fatter Liar. This is why people listen to our show.
To listen to you type.
I should say podcast from New Zealand, because that always gets people interested.
Yeah, people are like, oh, no one's going to fucking hear it, so I may as well.
Would you be keen? Is keen a word that non-New Zealanders say?
Yes.
Would you be down?
Would you be down?
Do you reckon that'd be dope?
It'd be so dope.
I'm going to write hell yeah. No, I'm not going to write hell yeah. All right, and then, and then I'm just going to tweet him. All right, he's tweeted. There you go. Hopefully we'll get an exclusive interview. God, when was the last time Frankie Muniz would have done an interview for, like, a press tour for Big Fat Liar?
Well, because did you see he recently rewatched all of Malcolm in the Middle over one summer, and he said he doesn't remember most of it.
Yeah, he had a really bad accident.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So I wonder if he'd be actually know anything. We'd be telling him everything about Big Fat Liar.
We'd be telling him about Bigger Fatter Liar. And then,
yeah.
Cool. Well, all right. Well, that about wraps up the main content of the show. Usually at this point in our podcast, we tell people what the next franchise we're going to be covering is. But before we do that, Phoebe, for those who've never heard of WatchMojo, tell us what you do and where we can find it.
So I'm a video producer, editor, and host at WatchMojo. So you can go on YouTube and search WatchMojo. We have 20 million subscribers. You can also find me on Twitter at Phoebe_WM. And I'm really nice, and I always respond to tweets, so don't be shy.
You are very nice,
really
and
nice.
you do respond to all of your tweets.
She'll come on your podcast even if no one listens to it.
I love it, so.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that's really awesome. Thank you for coming on the show, Phoebe.
Yeah.
The way we've done picking the next franchise in the past is that if we have a guest on, we ask them to pick a number out of 200 and something,
Whoa.
and then we go to a roulette wheel, and whatever number that correlates to is the number.
Oh, should we do that?
No.
Well, I mean, we could just get her to say a number and then just say, oh, it happened to be this.
But we're not going to do it, though.
Okay. All right.
Well, no.
Sorry for wanting to involve Phoebe.
No, all right, Phoebe. Fuck, man. Phoebe, pick a fucking number then. Go for
Between 1 and 200?
Yeah.
Let me check. I was being facetious when I swore then. I wasn't actually mad. Just to clarify.
It's okay, I wasn't listening.
Yeah.
That's good. All right, pick a number between... This is cruel, Richard, because it's not going to come to fruition. Pick a number between 1 and 194.
190.
Oh,
190
that's a good one. That's the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Very cool. That ties in really well with Endgame coming out shortly.
Oh,
wow.
definitely.
Very good.
What a coincidence.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, no, so that's what we're going to be doing over the next 3 weeks, starting in 2 weeks, is we're going to be covering each phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Earlier this year, we did Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. This year, and now later, we're doing the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We've got like Harry Potter and Star Wars left, and then the podcast can close its books as we've covered all the major ones, really.
Yeah.
Oh.
And we've done Big Fat Liar, so
yeah, exactly.
That's a big
one.
We've
had Phoebe from WatchMojo on, so we've already peaked. You know?
Oh my god.
Yeah.
190 was actually the Gods Not Dead trilogy.
Oh, nice.
Can you imagine if we covered that
instead of Marvel?
Yeah.
Phoebe, can I just... So what's an average day at WatchMojo? Paint us a picture.
Well, I do my VO sessions from 8 to 10. Then I'll video edit. So sometimes I do a Snapchat video. We have top 10s available on our Snapchat channel. Oh, God. I do more VO from 11 to 1. Then sometimes I film in the afternoons. It's always very busy at work, which is so much fun, and I get to wear many different hats, so I feel very blessed.
Nice.
Yeah.
You're not often wearing a hat in the videos, though.
My head's too big for hats.
I have the same problem.
I look great in hats.
I drive a scooter, and I got the biggest helmet they make.
Oh, no.
And it still leaves a massive imprint on my forehead because it's slightly too tight.
Do they have like a big and tall store for big heads?
they need one.
They definitely
Barry
need
Bostwick
one.
can go there.
Hey, that's so mean.
Thank you very much for listening to this, everybody who is listening to this. And if you liked it, you can also, after you've done subscribing to WatchMojo, head on over to Cult Popture on YouTube. We're also on Facebook and Instagram and iTunes and SoundCloud, and you can like us, follow us, subscribe to us. We're also on Twitter at Cult Popture, or you can email us at cultpopturemedia@gmail.com. Other than that, though, I think people can get excited for MCU and
Big Fat Liar 3.
Yes.
Big Fat Liar 3.
Big Fat Murderer.
It does. It does feel weird saying like check out WatchMojo because like YouTube doesn't really give you a choice.
That's true.
It's hard to ignore.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have the same problem with Cult Popture.
Yeah, it's like
in the other way. We've literally had comments saying this. I'm subscribed to you guys, and this didn't show up in my subscriptions. Just think you should know.
Yeah, they're too busy promoting WatchMojo. There's no time for the little guy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right. Thank you so much, Phoebe. This has been amazing. Thank you for coming on and talking to us. Don't hang up, but stop recording.
Okay.
We'll keep talking to you afterwards and just, say goodbye like normal people. But thank you very much for listening, everybody.
Bye.
And we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.